My name is Joe Hamon, and this is my story. I grew up not really going to church. No one I knew went to church. I kind of heard stories about who God was, who Jesus was. Didn't really think a lot about it, but what we did do is I played sports. All year long I was playing baseball, and that consumed me. I was obsessed with baseball, I was obsessed with football. All my energy was focused on that. And people started telling me I was good at it. Moving into high school, it was life. I didn't care about going to class or anything like that. What I cared about was baseball and football. So my identity and my confidence kind of grew in athletics. After high school, I was able to play college baseball. Professional baseball teams started sending me letters, started getting scouts showing up to my games. So these dreams that I had kind of felt like they were falling into place. Till finally, senior year came around and I sat there watching the draft on the computer. Everything was leading up to this pinnacle point in my life where I was gonna get a call from a professional team and say yes, sign with them and go on and make millions of dollars playing baseball. You're feeling anxious at that moment and excited because everything you worked for up until this moment was about to come true. Round by round I watched and listened, and I never heard my name, my phone never rang. I watched it for hours until the final pick of the draft, and it wasn't me. There was this moment of panic that I had sitting there at the computer that I've never felt before. What do I do now? My whole life is built up to this point and this opportunity, and my hopes and dreams kind of fell. I remember feeling like this depression, because for once in my life I didn't have a purpose. I didn't have a reason to wake up. That went on for a couple weeks, and my roommate at the time asked me one Sunday to go to church with him. And he had been asking me for 2 years, just about every Sunday if I would go to church with him, and I kept telling him no. But this Sunday was different. I was in a whole different place in my life, and I said yes. And I remember walking into the building, and everyone had these big smiles on their faces, and everyone was super happy, like almost to the point where it was fake to me, And I just kind of felt out of place. I almost had thoughts of leaving. But once the music ended and the pastor started preaching, I remember a story he was sharing on Job, learning that this was a man who had everything, and one day it was taken away from him. And I remember thinking, that was me. At that very moment, that's exactly how I felt. It just overwhelmed me. From that moment on, every word that the pastor said, I felt like it was directed straight towards me. And I remember him asking a question of, if everything was taken away from you, would you still have confidence? And I remember thinking, no, I no longer have confidence in myself. I no longer identify as a person I was. I remember him at the end of the message asking if we would give our lives to Jesus Christ that day, forget about our past and move on with confidence in God, because we weren't meant to hold on, to confidence on ourselves. We weren't meant to stand alone. And I remember sitting there with my head down and my eyes filled with tears. I finally knew who Jesus was, and what he did for me. And that day I asked for Jesus into my life. I know at that moment my life changed. The contrast to walking in with that depression and darkness and hopelessness, and being able to walk out of that building with joy and a hope and a future. I had a new purpose. I carried so much on myself for so long. I just put so much pressure on myself, and ever since that moment, 10 years ago, I don't feel that pressure anymore. And now I know whatever comes to me, that I will be okay. At the age of 23, I heard the gospel for the first time, and I found out what Jesus did for me at the cross, and it changed my life.